The statement that our Earth has a spherical shape is synonymous with no obvious and well-known fact. However, in our wonderful world, anything is possible, including the existence of people who, in the Extant century, with all the abundance of scientific knowledge and technology, believe that our Earth is in fact flat, and scientists are hiding everything. This may sound like a joke, but unfortunately, it is not. In this video, I will tell you about it. These are 10 interesting facts about the conspiracy theory of a flat Earth. There is a widespread myth that back in the Middle Ages, people thought the Earth was flat, and that those who claimed it was spherical were considered heretics and persecuted. In fact, this is not true. Educated people knew that the Earth was spherical back in antiquity, much less in the Middle Ages. I will tell you about how this was discovered a little later. Now I will start with how the conspiracy theory that the Earth is in fact flat came about. It began in the 19th century. Once again, in those days, all serious scientists did not even doubt that the Earth was shaped like a sphere. It was a well-established and generally accepted scientific fact, just as it is now. But there once was an Englishman named Samuel Rowthorne. He believed that the Bible was the Word of God, and that everything in it was the ultimate truth. It says that the Earth is a circle, but not a ball, and that it has edges. Modern believers prefer to interpret this as if the word circle in the Bible means a sphere and does not contradict modern scientific data. But that is another matter. Now, Rowthorne thought otherwise. He was sure that the Bible spoke of a flat Earth and decided to prove it scientifically. He did several experiments, and he did it publicly, gathering people to see them. But all his experiments, strangely enough, were unsuccessful. But that didn't stop him. He took the pseudonym Parallax, cool pseudonym, and wrote the book Earth is Not a Ball. In it, he argued that the most reliable way to know the world is not through equations, measurements, mathematical models, etc., but through our own feelings, our own perception, our own experience. And his experience makes it absolutely clear that the Earth is flat. Accordingly, it is. The contemporaries who worked with him took him seriously. Scientists did not enter into discussions with them. However, he managed to gather around him supporters who liked the theory of a flat Earth. Then the Flat Earth Society was created, whose members met regularly and discussed the shape of our planet. He died in 1884, but his cause continued to live on, although there were very few supporters of the flat Earth theory. At the beginning of the 20th century, the movement disappeared altogether, only to revive later in the middle of the 20th century with the advent of the Internet. Then there was no radio and television, were not allowed, and book printing needed money, which Flatlanders did not have, because, again, it was negligible. But as you might have guessed, everything changed with the advent of the Internet, and YouTube in particular, this conspiracy theory has become so popular. More recently, in the early 2010s, YouTube began to feature cover-breaking videos in which conspiracy theorists demonstrated various experiments whose results were falsely interpreted as evidence that the Earth is flat. Such experiments and pseudoscientific reasoning proved plausible to people who had never thought about the shape of the Earth before and who did not have enough knowledge to understand the absurdity of it all. As a result, the flat Earth conspiracy theory began to spread across the Internet extremely quickly, attracting thousands and thousands of people under its banner. The Flat Earth Society has gone from a small bunch of freaks to a huge crowd, furiously believing in it and proving to everyone around them that they live on a disc, not on a ball, and that all the world's science is a complete fraud and deception, a plot created by the world's elite against honest people. Well, how do we know that conspiracy theorists are wrong and that the Earth is actually shaped like a sphere, contrary to the claims of the flat earthers? You don't have to fly into space for that. The ancient Greeks understood this back in the 6th century BC. They saw that when a ship goes far beyond the horizon, first its hull disappears from view, then the base of the mast, and then its top. And if the Earth were flat, the ship would simply get smaller and smaller, becoming a completely invisible dot. If the observer is on the open sea on the ship itself, then as he approaches the land, he will first see the tops of the mountains on it, then he will begin to see the middle of those mountains, then the base of those mountains. If the Earth were flat, the mountains from an invisible point would simply appear in their entirety on the horizon, gradually becoming larger and larger. During lunar eclipses, the Greeks could see that the shadow the Earth cast on the moon was also rounded, And the great philosopher Aristotle noticed that the constellations changed their locations as he watched them from different countries far apart. The constellations moved up or down, depending on how much closer to the south or north Aristotle was to observing these stars. As an intelligent man, he concluded that the only thing that could explain this was the spherical shape of the Earth. And the ancient Greek mathematician Eratosthenes was able to calculate the circumference of the Earth extremely accurately. He did this by measuring the angle at which the shadow of a stick stuck in the ground fell. When the sun was at its zenith, this angle was different in different cities. So, knowing the distance between these cities and comparing it with the angle of the shadow, he was able to calculate the circumference of the Earth, and the error in these measurements was minimal. This also indicated that the Earth was spherical in shape. As time went on, more and more data became available that spoke of the spherical shape of the Earth. This knowledge spread around the world, and eventually, many centuries ago, it became common knowledge, at least among educated people. Even the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages acknowledged that the Earth was round, but claimed that our planet was at the very center of the universe and that the sun revolved around it. And those who believed that the Earth revolved around the sun were recognized by the Church as heretics and severely punished. But the Church did not say that the Earth was flat. In the 16th century, the great navigator Fernand Magellan led an expedition that made the world's first circumnavigation of the globe, circumnavigating the entire Earth. Magellan himself died before the expedition was completed and did not make it back to Europe, where he had started the voyage. But the surviving members of his expedition proved conclusively already in practice that the Earth has a spherical shape. Otherwise, their journey would have simply ended, and they would have touched down at the edge of the Earth. The flat Earth conspiracy theory includes not only a denial of the spherical shape of our planet, but something else fundamental. Flat Earthers do not believe in the existence of gravity. Supposedly, this concept was introduced by conspiracy scientists in order to deceive the people. You might immediately say, how is it that gravity does not exist? Children thrown on the floor, objects fall on it. This fact cannot be ignored. But the flat earthers have their own explanation as to why anything falls to the ground. They argue that our Earth is flat and is in constant upward motion, and with constant acceleration, that is, the speed of upward flight of the flat Earth is increasing all the time. This is why objects fall to the ground, according to the proponents of this conspiracy theory. But why does the Earth fly upwards? What is the force that moves it? Conspiracy theorists have different opinions. Either it happens due to some dark force, or the disk of the Earth below has engines that incomprehensibly with the help of what technology lifts it up all the time. By the way, the presence of red-hot lava inside the Earth is explained by conspiracy theorists by the engine below. Deep underground, this engine is constantly running, and therefore is always in a hot state, which causes the appearance of red-hot lava, which sometimes comes to the surface from the mouths of volcanoes. It must be such a cooling system. But what about the sun and the moon? What shape do they have, and how does day and night change if the Earth is really flat? Explain the conspiracy. They believe that the flat Earth is covered by some kind of solid, impenetrable dome that cannot be overcome. Our sun and moon are fixed to this dome. They move, so the dome. The sun illuminates directly the part of the Earth above which it is located. That is, it always shines from above. At the same time, conspiracy theorists are not confused by the fact that at sunrise and sunset the sun is on the horizon, and therefore shines from the side. This and many other facts flat earthers simply prefer to ignore. Well, the shape of the sun and the moon are circular after all. Also, because of the aforementioned dome, according to astronomers, it is impossible to fly into space, because the dome is impenetrable and solid. Therefore, all spaceflight has been declared by members of the Flat Earth Society to be a computer-generated fake and staged. Where did our Earth come from in principle? Conspiracy theorists have different opinions here. Some argue that God created it, which the evil guys in the secret world government are trying hard to hide from humans. Others argue that the flat Earth has always existed, or was created by some highly advanced alien civilization. Everyone can choose the option that he prefers. Sometimes, as artistic illustrations of a flat Earth, you can come across a picture like this one, where water rushes off the surface of the Earth over the edge and falls into bottomless space. But this is completely wrong. The flat Earth view is real blasphemy. No water of any kind escapes the Earth's cosmos. It's completely different. For example, astrologers believe that the flat Earth is actually surrounded by a huge high wall made of ice. It prevents water from leaking into space, but that's not all. This ice wall and the edge of the Earth are very well guarded. By who do you think? Our employees. There are automatics everywhere, as well as anti-aircraft systems in case some independent conspiracy pilot flies up to this wall with red-hot thoughts to see what's behind it. Stories are even common among conspiracy theorists about how some travelers were able to get close to this wall, after which no one heard from them. That is, they were shot there on the spot, so that they would not publish the pictures and reveal the terrible secret to people. It is beyond this wall, across many hundreds of kilometers in the icy wilderness, that the very edge of the Earth is where you can stand and look straight into the abyss. In any conspiracy theory, there is some evil, dangerous, and powerful group that conspired to hide or withhold information from people. In the Flat Earth conspiracy theory, it is us. And it is this organization, the Flat Earthers, who are believed to be the root source of all evil. They hold this group responsible for the fact that most people in the world believe the Earth is spherical. Flat Earthers invest enormous resources in maintaining this myth. Flatlanders claim that all photos and videos of our planet have actually been faked by NASA specialists, and that every rocket flight into space is a staging. History knows several cases where NASA astronauts were killed during the flight, so the Flat Earthers claim that all this was also planned by NASA villains in order to convince naive Earthlings that the cosmos exists. The Earth is spherical. Even supporters of a flat Earth do not believe in the existence of communication satellites, which are used by almost every person living in a developed country. Conspirologists give two options as to how these technologies actually work. The first option is telephone towers. Allegedly, all the equipment needed to make these things work is actually installed on them, on simple towers. They are somewhere far, far away in space. The second option is that the equipment for GPS communication satellites is attached to the celestial dome, the one above the Earth, to which the sun and the moon are supposedly attached. Allegedly, NASA has the ability to go up high enough to that dome and install transmitters there one way or another. And people are told that they are going up into space. Also, NASA somehow controls all the planes of all the airlines in the world, so that the pilots of those planes don't get too close to that very ice wall that encircles our flat Earth, and see what's behind it. All in all, conspiracy theorists believe that NASA is practically an all-powerful organization, with people still working there, none of whom have ever blabbed for decades. I think you have a reasonable question. Why do the Flat Earthers think NASA is engaged in such a planetary deception? After all, there must be some very good reason for this, and there is. Flatlanders argue that it's all about the money. NASA gets billions of dollars every year for its research and missions. However, all this is only possible if the Earth is spherical. Sometimes, in order to get money, NASA engages in spreading lies about a spherical Earth. Otherwise, the taxpayers would not agree to allocate money for the existence of this organization. That's the logic. In doing so, they ignore the fact that it would take much more money than NASA's annual budget to maintain such a lie. They believe that the governments of all countries have made a pact among themselves, and according to that pact, they deceive the whole world so that they can freely allocate large sums of money for space missions and satellites, which in fact do not exist. Flat Earthers do not deny the existence of other planets in our solar system, such as Mars, Venus, Mercury, and Saturn, and so on. Moreover, they do not deny the fact that these celestial bodies have a spherical shape because they can be observed with the most ordinary telescope. Unlike the Earth, this is why only our Earth has a flat shape in the world picture of Flat Earthers. Although all the other planets are round, some of the Flat Earthers admit that the other planets are somewhere far out in space, and we can see them through the very dome, which is actually transparent. The rest of the Flat Earthers are sure of something else. They think that, just like the sun and moon, other celestial bodies are also fixed to the dome and somehow move through it in some unknown way and are actually very close to Earth, hundreds of kilometers away or something like that. And conspiracy theorists believe that the secret world government has gotten so cocky that they themselves are giving people fairy tales about the real shape of the Earth. Look at this flag. It's the flag of the United Nations organization. It is a map of the Earth with the North Pole in the center. This is how flat earthers usually depict a map of a flat Earth. They believe that the UN chose this symbol for a reason. Supposedly it is 100%. How the map of our Earth actually looks, and why the world government is giving people such clues by making such a map a symbol of the UN are questions that remain open. How many people believe in this conspiracy theory? And what is a flat Earth society anyway? A person who has not delved into the question might think that it is just a few hundred freaks who are on the internet, and that is all. But it's much worse than that. Videos about a flat Earth get hundreds of thousands, even millions of views, and a Facebook group about it has the same number of members. Recently, a large poll of Americans in the U.S. found that only 84% of the country believes that the Earth is spherical. That means that about 16% doubt it. And the percentage is even higher among young people. And it's not just Americans. Silly about the same statistics would hold true for other developed countries. Flat earthers are not only watching videos on YouTube, but they hold huge conferences where thousands of people come to listen to their gurus and be convinced once again that the Earth is a flat disk. These people have or will soon have children who will be influenced by their parents to also believe that the Earth is flat. So there is really nothing funny about this. Ignorance and uneducation will only increase in our world because of such people. Believing in such things eventually leads to a complete denial of science. Such people will make decisions based on myths and fairy tales instead of real proven facts. Who knows what would happen to our world if such people could gain any power and influence the fate of our planet? By the way, the belief in a flat Earth has led to casualties. An American named Michael in 2020 decided to build a homemade rocket with a steam engine to fly high into the sky and take pictures of a flat Earth. This flight ended tragically. The rocket fell to the ground immediately after launch, and its brave pilot died on the spot. Conspiracy theories arise around absolutely everything, even around other conspiracy theories. There is a conspiracy theory that no flat earthers really exist. But how so, you may ask? After all, so many YouTube channels are devoted to it. There are conferences of flat earthers. And perhaps you yourself personally know people who believe that our Earth has exactly that shape. But it's not that simple. According to another conspiracy theory, in fact, all those who call themselves flat earthers are simple trolls. Allegedly, they all conspired among themselves and started pretending not to believe in a flat Earth, just for fun, money, and fame. Conspiracy theories are very hard to disprove. And a conspiracy theory about conspiracy theories is impossible to refute at all. However, it is worth saying this. As I said before, the flat Earth conspiracy theory started to become really popular about 10 years ago, thanks to the internet, and in particular YouTube. There is a perfectly plausible assumption that the very first bloggers who started spreading the flat Earth conspiracy theory were actually trolls and they were just messing around. This I quite believe. It is very likely that such a joke, without anyone's malice, has evolved into such a global and absurd phenomenon as belief in a flat Earth in the 21st century. I'm not going to tell you in this video how to make sure that the flat earthers are wrong and that the Earth is round. There are plenty of such videos on YouTube. Instead, let's speculate about what such a vast conspiracy involving millions of people could even be about. So the flat earthers believe that the most powerful on Earth have conspired among themselves to hide the truth about the true shape of our Earth from humans for the past thousands of years. Surely such a conspiracy would be the most massive ever seen on the planet. It would require incredible organization of all its participants and super stringent secrecy. After all, if anyone were to leak and provide proof of the existence of this conspiracy, the entire world order would collapse. If the stakes are so high, the conspirators probably benefit greatly from hiding the truth. That makes sense, but no. The conspirators would get nothing. Several explanations are offered about hiding the truth about the shape of the Earth. For example, conspiracists argue that it is all done to control the population. But why? People can do without control. Take a look at North Korea, for example. Their government does not claim that the Earth is flat, but has total control over the people with restrictions on freedom of speech, mass executions, the internet, etc. The broad masses of people would gain no power or authority if they learned that the Earth is in fact flat. Yet they, that is the conspirators, supposedly spend trillions of dollars every year to maintain this lie. They maintain an army of thousands of employees of space agencies, transportation companies, and scientists. Moreover, none of these people have spoken out in all this time. And after all, if someone did, by providing, for example, some documents about this conspiracy, he would immediately become a star, would gain fame and a lot of money. But that doesn't happen. Edward Snowden is not among these conspirators. Yet they spend trillions every year but can't handle 100 YouTubers telling the whole truth about the shape of our Earth on their YouTube channels. It is absolutely unclear how the world's elites allow it, but it is clear that the existence of such channels shows that there is no conspiracy. In general, you can try to imagine how many people are supposedly involved in this absolutely everything. Airplane pilots, astronauts, employees of all space agencies of all countries of the world, all high-ranking politicians, all astronomers, all geologists, physicists. All of them must be on the payroll to hide the truth about the shape of our Earth. Any conspiracy theory claims that there is some powerful minority that is deceiving the masses of people. But in this case, it is not so. If we stick to this conspiracy theory, it turns out that there are many times more conspirators than there are conspiracy theorists. But why are there people who believe that the Earth is flat, despite so much evidence to the contrary? There is an explanation in our world, just as there is for any other conspiracy theory. First and foremost is a lack of knowledge and education. Thinking is difficult, so it is much more convenient and easier to just rely on your intuition and your perception. As I said earlier, it is one's own perception that is the main reliable way for flat earthers to know the world. There is no need to learn complicated formulas, trigonometry, or to count and calculate something. All this is complicated and tedious. It's much easier to say that you are a reasonable person, simply because you believe your eyes, and the eyes do see that the Earth is flat. Also, believing in conspiracy theories makes a person special in his own eyes, as well as in the eyes of other conspiracy theorists. Imagine a simple man named, say, Anthony. He is not happy with his life and works at a bad job. He doesn't like the fact that he solves absolutely nothing in this world and has achieved nothing. But when such Anthony becomes a conspiracy theorist, everything changes for him. He is no longer just a longshoreman or a cashier. He is one of the chosen few to whom the truth has been revealed. He becomes a warrior of the light who wages a fierce struggle against the world behind the scenes. He fights for truth against the forces of darkness. He no longer has to change himself for all his failures in life. You can now blame everything on those very evil Freemasons, Illuminati, or guys, because it is because of them that life is so unfair and hard, and it is no longer as frustrating for his life as it was before. After all, it's not his own fault. It's the mysterious them. After all, belief in the conspiracy theory fills his life with meaning. The VAT rate is hollow. Anthony sort of gets the moral right to look down on everyone else who doesn't share his point of view. He thinks that everyone else is just sheep, mindlessly believing in the fairy tales told by official science. Those who don't sleep and can't reason logically are pawns. But Anthony is one of the few reasonable and intelligent people, which greatly increases his self-esteem. In addition, it's always nice to be a member of a community. That's why there are soccer fans or members of hobby clubs. And conspiracists consider their community not one club or the other, usually a number. And you're doubly pleasant. Is it worth arguing with a conspiracy theorist? The thoughts and conclusions of such a meat and unlikely flatlander consciously chose to ignore any documents that would prove him wrong. You won't be able to inform him of anything new. He has already heard all the arguments in favor of a spherical Earth 100 times, and they have no effect on him. The issue here is not logic, but blind faith. Faith in what you like and in what feels good. Faith in what is true. Flatlanders are asking you if you yourself have been to space. You haven't been there, so you can't talk about it. Well, even if you have been, you are still lying, or you were simply deceived by the porthole and computer-generated videos. Is it worth arguing with a person who has hallucinations due to a brain malfunction and sees dragons and smiling trees all around him? It is not worth it. Also, here it is best, if there is a flatlander in front of you, try to just change the subject and avoid the argument. It will lead to nothing but conflict anyway. If you are interested in the topic of conspiracy theory, then write in the comments about which theory you would like me to film the next issue. I read the comments. Also, they're very helpful in making a video, so at least write something.